Hello and welcome to my thought for the day. I'm back in John chapter 8. It's quite a long discourse. If you have the chance to read it, it's from verse 31 right through to the end of the chapter at verse 59. Jesus is talking to Jews who had believed in him. It says in John 8:31. Jesus then said to the Jews who had believed in him, "If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free." So he's talking to people who believed in him, who were listening to him, who had heard what he had to say so far, and they were believers. They believed in him. And what it says to me is that Jesus is inviting them to understand more fully what he's talking about. And this is an invitation to us, that we, whatever stage of your walk with Jesus you are at, there is more to know, more to learn, more to discover about Jesus. And he says to them, if you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. And their answer is, we're descendants of Abraham and have never been in bondage to anyone. How is it that you say you'll be made free? They didn't understand what he was saying. And he goes on to say, truly, truly, I say to you, everyone who commits sin is a slave to sin. The slave does not continue in the house forever. The son continues forever. So if the son makes you free, you will be free indeed. What he's saying here is that you can't rely. They were relying to a large extent on their heritage. They were natural-born descendants of Abraham. And they were technically people of faith, people of the faith, followers of the Jewish faith. They were children of Abraham. And they did not understand what Jesus had come to give them. They didn't understand he'd come to deal with the root cause of their problems, which was sin and being a slave to sin. Paul expands on this in Romans, how if you are, Jesus says here, he who commits sin is a slave to sin. In this world, Paul divides everybody, and Jesus divides everybody into two camps. Those who are slaves to sin and those who are slaves to righteousness. There's no middle ground. It's very black and white. The scriptures are very black and white. A lot of people like to think of them as being very vague and very tolerant. And they say, well, the scriptures don't teach any absolutes. My goodness, they do. They do. You have to read them with very unfocused eyes not to see the absolutes. Here you would think Jesus is talking to people who already believe in him. So just let them follow him. No, he doesn't. He challenges them. He says to them, in effect, you're not going to get salvation because you're Abraham's children. You will get salvation when your sin is dealt with. And that will be through the Son, whom the Son makes. If the Son makes you free, you will be free indeed. A slave, if you're a slave to sin, you're not going to live forever in the house. But the Son leads the way. If the Son makes you free, you'll be free indeed. When you come to Jesus and he deals with your sin, he has dealt with it on the cross. Your sin is dealt with. You don't have to carry the burden of it anymore. The enemy says to you, well, you can't let yourself get off that easily. Look at all the things you've done. You must suffer guilt and remorse. You must spend your life trying to make up for all the things that you've done, trying to earn salvation. Jesus says completely the opposite. The scriptures say completely the opposite. The scriptures say no one is justified by what they do. Not a single one. No one except Jesus has ever lived a perfect life. No one will stand before God the Father at the end of the age and say, thank you, God, for recognizing what I've done. Thank you for letting me in. You're not going to get in on your own merits. What you are going to get in on is the merits of Jesus. Jesus died and rose again and ascended into heaven so that you and I can present ourselves in heaven to the angel or whoever. If you think St. Peter might be at the gates and he says, why should I let you in? You don't even think about yourself. You say, Jesus died for me. Jesus paid the penalty. You won't go and you won't stand at the gates and say, well, I was born a Jew. I'm a descendant of Abraham. I can trace my ancestry back to Abraham. I have a right to be here. None of us do. And these Jews did not understand that. It was a shock to them. As far as they were concerned, they were guaranteed a place in God's kingdom. They were God's people. But they needed to recognize that they needed the Son to set them free. If the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. And he goes on to say, he knew what was in their hearts. He said to them, if you were really descendants of Abraham, the man of faith, you would recognize me, because Abraham saw my day and rejoiced. I've cut bits out. It's a long diatribe. But he says to them, if you don't believe what I'm saying to you, these difficult things I'm saying to you, then you will be of your real father, who is the devil. What a terrible thing to say to them. They were Jews. They kept all the sacrifices. They observed all the law. They were good people. And Jesus called them sons of the devil because they were lying about him. He says, if God were your father, you would love me, for I proceeded and came from the Father. If you were people of faith, you would recognize who I am. And they didn't. And they were offended. And there may come a time in your Christian walk when you read something or you meditate on something and it really contradicts something you've always believed. Maybe it challenges something that you've grown up believing all your life. Whatever denomination you're in, none of them are perfect. And you may well find that something that you've been taught since you were a small child is not actually true. And you'll be shocked. But don't turn away from Jesus because he challenges your preconceived ideas. And he will do until he is Lord of all. And he ends this long discussion with them by saying, before Abraham was, I am. Claiming to be God in no uncertain terms, because that was the name God said to Moses. When Moses said, who shall I say sent me to them when I go to the people in Egypt? God said to him, say, I am sent you. And Jesus said, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. And they recognized what he was saying, and they immediately took up stones to stone him, because this was blasphemy to claim to be God. But that's what he said. He challenged all their preconceived ideas, and he does that to us. He'll challenge your ideas, but he is Lord. He is true. He is the one who speaks truth, the ultimate truth. And if you can accept his truth, the Son will make you free, and you will be free indeed. God bless you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.